in the News. I'm your host, Keith Lander, and on today's show, we're going to talk about a issue that's here in the state of Ohio. But I guarantee you, just because it's in the state of Ohio doesn't mean it's not coming to your state. Now, let me explain what the state legislators here in the state of Ohio is doing. What they come up with is a issue 1. Now, issue 1 will be voted on August the 8th. Now, August the 8th elections are usually a few people come out. But after I get done explaining what this issue 1 is, I want you to show it to everybody you possibly can show it to so they'll understand what this issue 1 is all about here in the state of Ohio. Now, as when you go to the polls, you'll see it's a proposed constitutional amendment. That's what it says, issue 1. And we'll put that on the screen, what you'll see when you go to the polls. Now, it says at the top, it says elevating the standard to qualify for an initiated constitutional amendment and to pass a constitutional amendment. And then it says, proposed by the joint resolution of the General Assembly. And then, of course, it has some sections of the Constitution that will be amended. And then it goes in to say the proposed amendment it will require any proposed amendment to the Constitution of the state of Ohio receiving approval of 60% of eligible voters in this proposed Constitution. Also, it will require that any initiative petition filed on or after January 1st, 2024 with the Secretary of State proposing to amend the Constitution of the United States be signed at least by 5% of electors of each county based on the total vote in the county for governor in the last preceding election. And it also specifies the additional signatures may not be added to the initiative petition proposing to amend the Constitution of the state of Ohio that is filed within the Secretary of State on or after January 1, 2024. So all that jargon there, what it breaks down to is this. If issue 1 is passed, this is what will happen, all right? It will require any proposed amendment to the state constitution receive approval from at least 60% of the voters. Currently, the approval for a simple majority of voters is enough to pass. That's current. Now that's 50 plus 1 voters. So what that means is instead of getting 50 plus 1 votes to pass a amendment to the Constitution, you will end up having to get 60 votes, right? Now, second, requires that citizen-initiated petitions receive at least 5% of the voters in the most recent gubernatorial election in all 88 Ohio counties in order to get on the ballot. Currently, all right, petitions only need signatures from 5% of the voters from 44 counties. So they're going from 44 counties to all 88 counties to get signatures 5%. Now, it removes also the 10-day cure period. That allows petitioners to be petitioners to collect additional signatures after filing their petition within the state to the Secretary of State. Now, it will. Let's see. Now, what this does is, folks, it makes it extremely hard to get any type of petitions passed to get on a ballot. Now, what that means, remember we had the smoking ban or the smoking proposal, indoor smoking here in the state of Ohio? People gathered petitions, right? It went on the ballot and people voted for that, okay? If this bill would pass, I guarantee you hardly anybody getting 60% of the votes in the state of Ohio to get this on the ballot. You certainly, it's hard to get 44 counties, 5% of the votes. They're moving it to 88 counties. So you have to have people in all 88 counties getting signatures for 5% in each county. I mean, you can do it, but I can tell you what, it's going to be extremely, extremely difficult. Now, I'm going to move on. Now, this here issue 1, this is not a new thing. This is not a new thing. See, the state had a supermajority for requirements in the General Assembly back in 1851 to 1912. And what happened was the Ohio State House was among the most corrupt in the United States. Of course, we had some corruption just recently with the at the State House. So, you know, this pales into comparison. And then what happened from that was in 1912 at the Ohio Constitution Convention, all right, the voters initiated the constitutional amendment that was added, and that passed by 57% of the votes. So this thing here is 111 years old. What's in place now? The Republican-controlled legislator in the state are trying to change it because it's not an issue that we're getting too many amendments and on the ballot. No, it's because they believe, and this is from State Representative Brian Stewart. He's one of the chief proponents, and he's made it abundantly clear publicly that the true goal is to snuff out efforts to create a fair state house and constitutional districts, and to defeat the ongoing efforts to pass an abortion access amendment, possibly in the November ballot. So, what this comes down to is a couple of issues. The Republican-controlled state house in Ohio do not want to see the congressional redistricting on the ballot to make it fair. They'll fight tooth and nail, and they don't want to see an issue about abortion ban on the ballot. And so they came up with this trickery to try to prevent that from happening. And that's all it comes down to, folks. Now, not only that, but you also, if you take out, let's take recreation marijuana. If you wanted to get a petition to get together, put that on the ballot for some issue, that's going to be almost impossible to do. Not only that, but also your workers' rights, also that minimum wage, those things were going on the ballot in certain states. The Republican-controlled state representatives here in Ohio do not want to see these issues get on the ballot. They came up with this flimsy excuse for this nonsense, and folks, don't fall for it. You're going to hear a lot of talk about issue 1. I guarantee you it does not do any good for the state voters here in Ohio, and it won't do any good in your state if the state starts to do similar measures. So I'm sounding the alarm, folks. Now, let me tell you this. Since 1912, right, Ohioans have brought Citizen Constitution Amendments ballot initiative 71 times with 19 amendments approval and 52 rejected. That's a 26% rate of things getting passed on the amendments. So that's not even an issue. Let me say this too. The August election for this proposal is opposed by more than 240 bipartisan Ohio groups, 4 bipartisan former governors, 5 bipartisan former attorney generals, and the entire Association of Ohio elected officials who administer elections. So you got all these people against it. Bipartisan, 240 Ohio groups oppose this thing, bipartisan groups, 4 bipartisan former governors. So folks, this thing is bad for Ohio because it takes the rights from Ohioans. And also, I thought the state Republicans were so fiscal conservative. Why have an August election that's going to cost the Ohio citizens $20 million for this special election on August the 8th? $20 million, folks, is what it's going to cost Ohio citizens to put this thing on the August 8th election. And the only reason, like I said before, if they're doing it, is because they want to maintain their control in their area, and they don't want to see any gerrymandering bill on the ballot so that we can get rid of that gerrymandering and free up these districts fair And they also don't want anything that people can go and vote on abortion bans, because they know around the country these bans have been voted down, and I can guarantee you if they done surveyed enough that it'll be voted down if it's on the ballot here in the state of Ohio. So this is the reason why they doing this nonsense. Don't let them get away with it, folks. August 8th, get to the polls, vote no on issue 1. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your mama, tell your grandmama, tell your granddaddy, tell your aunts, your uncles, your cousin. Tell that cat out there on the street corner, pick him up, pull his pants up, and tell him we're going to go vote, right? So get everybody, folks. I'm telling you, the state of Ohio, we are not going backwards, and we shouldn't go backwards. This issue 1, you'll hear a lot more about it in the coming month of July. Show this video to your friends, show it to your family, show it in your churches, show it to all the organizations, because vote no. You know the reason now to vote no. I'm just not saying vote no. Vote no because it takes away the power of the people here in the state of Ohio. All right? So, until next time, may God bless you and your family.